is very generous of you, given that we've made you wait in silence for 15 minutes. I'm really sorry, but it's not the easiest venue in the world to get people into, so we wanted to get everybody in here. It's not the easiest venue to get out of either. I mean, what if there's a fire? No, I don't even want to think about that. No, it's fine, it's all fine. It's completely under control. It's fine. So, welcome. Thank you for waiting patiently. Welcome to our 10th anniversary election night special grand international FameLab final. And a particular thank you for going wild if some of you have absolutely no idea what this is. So I'm Quentin Cooper at QWERTY. I have been here since before the beginning. I've been here all decade, and I've been here all decade, unfortunately, as well. So before we get into what an amazing, blazing, deserving of praising event FameLab International is, who, just out of curiosity, is here as a complete novice, a neophyte, not a Scooby newbie who has no idea what's going on? Oh, there are a few of you. Thank you. Thank you very much for coming. There's a few over here as well. Fine. Great. Thank you. And even some who've made it downstairs. So not only did you not know, but you were keen enough to get a seat downstairs. That's good as well. Well, obviously, yeah, after 10 years, we do get a lot of return traffic, but it is great to see new blood. Thank you for joining our science communication congregation. What I can guarantee you is that the next hour and a half will be more entertaining than the last 15 minutes. So FameLab began right here, well, actually more, hang on, where are we? Yeah, more over there, I think, in the town hall, about 12 years ago. And it was a UK-only competition. We had no plans for it to be anything else than finding young British science communicators. And for a combination of factors, one, because one of the winners so appealed to somebody from British Council Bulgaria, who shall remain nameless, she was determined to whisk him away on an international tour. And secondly, because somebody else was there from British Council who thought it was something worth trialing in Southeast Europe. They rolled it out as part of their Beautiful Science project. Then they brought people back the next year to come. I was standing on the stage as we introduced a couple of them. I said, wouldn't it be fun to have some sort of international FameLab? And a beast was born. And it's now a beast with many tentacles and many heads. It is spread out over Asia and Africa and North and South America and Australasia, to every continent of the world, bar one, but can't talk about that. We're working on that as well. Okay, NASA and CERN began staging their own versions and getting involved as well. Tens of thousands of people have taken part in one way or another. Tens of millions have watched on TV and online. This year is the biggest ever. We have had FameLab participants from 31 different countries. Now, 31 different countries after 10 years, you might think, yeah. Do you know how long it took the World Cup to get that big? 36 years before the World Cup was that big. We have done it in 10. Now, those 30, yeah, thank you. Why are you? It's a collective thing, but I'll take the credit. That's fine. So those 31 FameLab Tremi finalists who we had yesterday. So what happened yesterday, for those who don't know about it, we had 3 back-to-back Tremi finals over, well, 8 hours, all compared by me. There's very little of me left after this. But what we did have the sad task of doing was turning 31 absolutely brilliant Tremi finalists into 9 absolutely brilliant finalists. I'm not even going to say anything that give them a higher adjective there. As far as I'm concerned, the Tremi finalists were brilliant, the finalists were brilliant. It's just the kind of selection process that has to take place, because otherwise you'd be in for a 6-hour show tonight, and then you'd be less happy about that 15-minute delay at the beginning. The other thing those 9 ones have got through to is they have to do something different today as well. So for those of you who are at the Tremi finals, the good news is brand new material. The only exception to that rule is the 9 Tremi finalists. Bad news, brand new material. Now, right, before we get going properly and get things fully underway and bring on the judges, one of the things that we're proud about this event, it's always been involved with the British Council, and it's always been involved with Cheltenham Science Festival. And we're going to have a quick word of welcome from the new Cheltenham Festival's director. So he's in charge not just of the Science Festival, but of the Jazz Festival, the Literature Festival, the Music Festival, and the Cheese Festival. So some applause, please, for Ian George.
Thanks, Quentin. I have to work on my knowledge of Breeze and Stiltons if we are, in fact, doing the Cheese Festival, but it's news to me. I like that, though.
Cheese event here, Saturday night, part of the Science Festival. Thank you.
A great way to start. So firstly, welcome to Cheltenham Science Festival as well. For us, FameLab has always been part of that family. It was born here. And for me personally, to hear, as Quentin was saying, that it's in its 10th year, I was involved when we first launched it way back when. And it's to see this journey going from being born in Cheltenham to 31 countries, as Quentin mentioned, is quite a feat. So we're very proud of that at Cheltenham Science Festival. I hope you're going to enjoy as much of the festival as you can. It goes all the way through to Sunday night. We've got over 40,000 tickets sold at the festival this year. 6,000 school children have been coming through the doors, and buses have been arriving daily. We've only lost a few children, I think, Ali, so far, so that's pretty good going. But for me, part of this journey with FameLab and this growth couldn't have been made possible without the support of the British Council, who have really taken the FameLab principle global. So we're very grateful for them. And for us, I think it's all about enjoyment. Public engagement, so important for science, and these guys are going to blow your socks off with some great performances. So I just wanted to say thank you and welcome to Cheltenham Science Festival. I'll pass you back to Quentin.
Thank you very much, Ian. I was slightly worried at one point when he talked about 40,000 tickets sold and 6,000 school children, but I realized that it was just the construction of the sentence. The children were not sold at any time. So yesterday, all our 31 winners got 3 minutes across 3 tremi-finals with 3 judges, selected 3 from each to get through to tonight's grand final. I have no idea where this obsession with the number 3 has come from. Tonight, another 3 judges will decide, though, on our 1 International FameLab Champion 2017. And just so you know, if you're wondering what the significance of 3 minutes, if they go over 3 minutes, even a second over 3 minutes, they hear this. Author, football fan, broadcaster and presenter of what by common consent used to be the second best science programme on British radio, but is now unrivaled as the best. Some categoric parabolic applause for Jim Al-Khalili. All I really need to say about our second judge is that she was chief scientist at NASA. It's just one of those job titles you never get tired of saying. Chief scientist at NASA. You see, I've said it again. Her research has focused on planetary geology. She's been a lead scientist on missions to Mars, Venus, Titan, and beyond, held various other senior positions at NASA, but none quite so impressive as chief scientist. A hyperbolic, parabolic welcome for Ellen Staufan. And many years ago, he studied human genetics. Now he's Director of Skills and Education at the charity Lloyd's Register Foundation. But in between, along with a lot of custard creams, he really loves custard creams, he coordinated FameLab globally for British Council and did much to help it become the lovable Leviathan it is today. A euphoric, parabolic big hand for Tim Slingsby. Tim, let me start with you. So 10 glorious years. Now, you weren't there at the beginning, but now you've stepped back from British Council. Do you get a nice overview of what a huge global beast this has become?
I do, actually. We were reflecting on this a few moments ago. I think it's something we can all be incredibly proud of. It's something that has achieved so much, I think, beyond everybody's wildest dreams. It is a truly international science communication competition, and those that are part of it, and those that go through the training and the competition itself, go on and achieve so much more. That is all part of this wonderful journey of making the romance and wonder of science applicable and relevant to all.
And what's lovely is, although I've explained to the newbies here, there is kind of one set of rules. It's a bit like football. Everybody plays it a bit differently, and every country adapts it to their own needs and desires.
Absolutely right, and the success of FameLab, I think, is indicated in something that you often say, and whether or not it'll change tonight, I don't know. But
I do repeat myself. In fact, I do repeat myself, yes. Yeah.
Do you repeat yourself? Yeah. I can't recall there being a UK winner, so that indicates that, well, since it became international, so that indicates
of the international one, obviously there's a UK.
Absolutely, the different way that things are done still creates a great success.
Now, Jim, you're a man of many hats, some of which you look quite fetching in.
Thank you.
As in you wearing your science communication professorial one, what do you make of something like this? Has it made a difference? I mean, it's an entertainment, but has it changed anything?
Absolutely. I mean, again, we were talking backstage, thinking back to past winners, and even those who haven't actually won, but who made finals, who left a mark, and who've gone on to set up science festivals, that have gone on to become TV presenters, that have gone on to become, academics in their own right and doing science, doing research. So it really is, it's not something that scientists or those who have a love of science do just as a hobby, as an aside. It's something that really molds their future career. I think it's tremendously important.
Good, I'm glad you think that. And Ellen, you've been very involved with NASA, and NASA have been very involved with FameLab, and FameLab USA started off as a NASA-only event for a particular subsection. I think it was it planetary biologists or something?
I think so, yeah.
Something like that. So what do you make? Is there nothing quite like FameLab in the galaxy as far as you know?
I think not, but it's such a great model that why not join in rather than start something different? And I think FameLab is so successful, and it's so critically important that as a scientific community, we learn how to communicate not just clearly to the public, but engage them, tell a story, and FameLab is really great training for that.
Great. And I may not get another opportunity to point that out this evening, but I'm fond of doing anagrams, and I can't help but notice that Ellen Staufan is an anagram which is perfect for an interplanetary geologist of fallen stone. Isn't that nice?
Right.
No, okay, so
that.
that's enough of the self-congratulation about the 10 years. We'll now actually get on with the competition. So first of all, Jim, what are the criteria you'll be judging them on?
We're looking at charisma, in the way they engage, make the audience want to listen to them, have a story to tell. It has to be clear.
Clarity, charisma.
Clarity, charisma, and content. The story they have to tell.
Just came to you in time.
I know, exactly. Thank goodness for that. I knew it was another C. I didn't know we had to revise and memorize. I've got it written down on my notes.
It was just and content. It just came like that as well. I mean, all these people, they're all international winners. They've come through heats and possibly other rounds in their own countries. They've come through yesterday's international semi-finals. Questions. You get a couple of minutes to question them as well. What kind of things are you going to be looking out for? And is that going to make a big difference in who you choose?
Ooh, could be a leading question. It could do, because I think if people know their subject, then they'll demonstrate it through the 3 C's that Jim just mentioned, but also through being able to answer questions in and around if we're able to test the depth and width of their knowledge of their subject as well.
Ellen, what do you think you're going to be probing them for? What's your mark of a great communicator?
Well, obviously they have to get their facts right. I mean, that's probably, that's ground one, but I assume that anybody that's made it to tonight doesn't have that issue. So to me, then the next one, is it a good story? Did it move us? Did it bring us along? Did it engage us?
Okay, that's what they're looking out for. It's going to be a very tough job trying to whittle these people down. They've been whittled already. Further whittling is really not necessary, but it doesn't really work as a competition. They've got to choose 2 joint runners-up and 1 winner who, courtesy of UK FameLab sponsors EDF Energy, will get a GoPro rugged camera kit. So can you please give our judges a kind of wave of applause to encourage them in their difficult task? And I did say there are 3 judges. I lied. There is a 4th judge, and that is you, if you don't mind. So, no, actually, all of you. As a collective entity, you get to vote as well. Can I just ask, curiously, how many of you have voted today in the general election? Oh, that's pretty good, actually, given an international audience. Okay, fine, that's fine. Okay, so just a quick quiz. When International FameLab began in 2007, the Prime Minister was? It was indeed Tony Blair, yes. In fact, it was in June 2007 he handed over to Gordon Brown, so it's just in there as well. So tomorrow we'll know whether it's Theresa or Jezza or an other. Our fate will have been sealed, but tonight there is a chance to participate in a truly democratic bit of polling where you can and will make a difference, and the result will be one the entire country can get behind, and that is our audience vote. I'll explain how later, but suffice to say, having done this for 10 years and had various different iterations of the voting process, we have gone as low-tech as we can possibly get. short of making you grind it out on stones as well. So can I just check, did you all get ballot papers when you came in? Anybody not got a ballot paper? Okay, so stick your hand up and somebody will try and get one to you, because otherwise you've been disenfranchised. If you don't have a pen, it's just the usual in blood. You know, we don't ask much in these audiences as well. And after we've voted and while the judges are deliberating, we have an extra treat for you in the shape of Belgian physicist, science communicator, and extremely funny person, Lieven Shearer, as well. So you're going to have a little interval act as well. Okay, right, now, almost there. I'm trusting that you're a sophisticated, switched-on, savvy audience, so you'll know to have your mobiles on silent, please. No flash photography, please, as well. And you know this is FameLab, not Fame Library, so you're ready to make some noise? In that case, you're also ready to meet our first finalist. Now, the order is random. It's done using the, very kindly, we've been lent the GCHQ quantum computer down the road, and that combined with the game of pin the tail on the donkey round the back means we start with our first ever Ugandan winner, Irene Chomhanji. After getting an undergraduate degree and an MSc in immunology of infectious diseases here in the UK, she then had stints working in Namibia, South Sudan, and back in Uganda. But Irene's now about to start a PhD in statistics and epidemiology at Lancaster University. Most of her research has been on tackling malaria and other major diseases, and Irene says what she really enjoys is coming up with new ideas by sharing and comparing knowledge from different areas of science. And she doesn't just like to share with other scientists, she likes to share with everyone, which is why she entered FameLab. And tonight, she gets to share a little, just 3 minutes of what she's done with you. Tough going first, so give a huge Cheltenham welcome for Ugandan champion, Irene Chomhanji.
All right, malaria is arguably the most dangerous disease in human history. Some people argue that malaria has killed half the entire human population that has ever existed. That's more than 50 billion people. So what makes malaria so dangerous? Now, evolution has equipped us with a sophisticated defense system whose job it is to protect us from diseases like malaria. The problem is that malaria parasites, the parasites that cause malaria, are very good at evading our defense system, which is our immune system. And they do this in two major ways. First is shape-shifting, and the second is hiding. So if you've watched the X-Men movies, you're familiar with a very, very beautiful blue character called Mystique. And one of her many talents is shape-shifting. She goes around committing crimes and changing her face. So when she does this, the police find it very difficult to find her. Now, your immune cells are just like the police, because they depend on recognizing pathogens in order to respond appropriately. What your malaria parasites do is they change their face as they develop in your body. And when they do this, it makes it difficult for your immune system to create an appropriate response. Your malaria parasites are also very good at hiding. Your malaria parasites are also very good at hiding. They hide within your liver cells and your red blood cells, and this makes it very difficult for your immune response to be activated. So if you're dealing with, sorry. So yeah, your immune response is really confused by the different phases of your malaria parasites. So that makes it very difficult for your body to respond to the, your body to get rid of the parasite. So another thing is that, I'm really sorry. This is very difficult, yeah. So the take-home message basically is your malaria parasites confuse your immune system, and it's not able to produce an effective response to get rid of the parasite. And what we can do to help our immune response become better is to come up with better vaccines. We have a malaria vaccine out now, and while that's an important step in the right direction, there are still many challenges around malaria that make it difficult to get this vaccine out in the public. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Irene.
Yeah, sorry, the nerves
no,
totally
listen,
got
it's
got
horrible
me.
when your mind goes blank,
Yeah,
and the more you think about it going blank, the more...
No, it's fine, it happens
No,
to
you
everyone.
recovered very well.
Yeah.
You're just about to start a PhD.
Yes, I'm just about to
So
start
the
a PhD.
subject you're talking about now, I mean, this
Yeah.
is not something you've studied much at undergraduate level, presumably.
No, I did actually. I did my master's, well, at undergrad I did biomedical science, which involved a lot of different aspects of biological sciences. And at master's degree, I did a project in malaria immunology in children. Right. And so that kind of got me on the path of malaria research. And from then on, I went on to do malaria epidemiology studies all over different parts of Africa. So I've been involved in malaria epidemiology studies, and that's how I'm getting to my PhD.
Fantastic, thank you.
With something so tricky that's been around so long, how does a vaccine, is a vaccine only going to work for a certain period of time, and then malaria is going to figure out how to get around the vaccine? I mean, some of these viruses, they seem so pernicious.
Well, yeah, that could happen. The thing is, we've been with malaria for more than 500,000 years, and it's been a huge problem. We've only recently gotten medicine to get rid of malaria. In terms of vaccines, malaria immunology is a very complex problem. Our natural immune response to malaria is not very good. So what we have to do in a vaccine is to create an almost better response than our own natural immune response. And that's a big mountain to climb, which is very difficult. The malaria vaccine we have now doesn't have very good efficacy, which means it doesn't work very well for a long period of time. And you need constant exposure to malaria to develop a strong immune response to it, which in itself is not complete. So we're dealt bad hands here with malaria. Yeah.
I really enjoyed your presentation. I like how you tied this malaria that everybody knows about to a popular cultural phenomenon, the X-Men and
yes.
Mystique and things. I like that a lot. So I was going to ask you a cruel question about sickle cell anemia and what sort of X-Men character the sickle cells might present. But I'll steer clear from that, unless you want to answer.
No, that's fine.
I was wondering, you talk about the vaccine.
Yeah.
And the difficulties associated with producing this vaccine. Mm-hmm. Is it more cost-effective to have an education program that forces and develops the use of nets, mosquito nets, rather than investing money in this program of vaccination?
That's a really good point. The issue, malaria is very complicated. There are many different factors that influence what percentage of the population has malaria, for instance. So when you talk about mosquito nets, there are huge campaigns that go out to get people to use mosquito nets better, but that comes with other complications of socioeconomic status. Do people have access to mosquito nets? Do they have the knowledge to use it? And getting people knowledgeable about it is not an easy thing. Those are different areas we try to get people to prevent malaria in their communities.
Okay, have to leave it there. Making us more malaria aware. Our Ugandan champion, Irene Chomhanji. And I think sickle cell anemia would be Rogue or possibly Nightcrawler if we're going for X-Men, Tim, I think. As well, now you've got a perfect illustration there from Irene of why I have the clipboard. Coming up here and talking for 3 minutes off the top of your head, having it all memorized or improvised is not easy. But you get the general pattern. 3 minutes from them to be FameLabulous, 2 minutes for the judges to be fudgy, and then on we move again. In this case, to the one finalist who is not technically a national champion. They're an autonomous special administrative region of the People's Republic of China champion. Our Hong Kong winner, Nicole Phoebe Tanner. Nicole is a fourth-year medical student at the Chinese University of Hong Kong. She says she entered FameLab for purely pragmatic reasons. Nicole believes good medicine is as much about prevention as treatment, and good communication is key to good prevention. So she hoped FameLab would help make her a better communicator and therefore a better doctor. I do like the logic. Now, just to warn you, in the Tremi final yesterday, Nicole bounded on stage, covered in fake blisters, and claiming to be a time traveler with smallpox who'd come back from a future without vaccines to try and prevent us from going down that route. I'm expecting nothing less wild now from our Hong Kong champion, Nicole Phoebe Tanner.
Human beings. Whoa, wait, don't flush, okay? Let me at least introduce myself. I'm Pooh, or as most of you know me as, Now, before you flush me away, let me tell you why I'm really useful. Recently, people have started eating me. I know that sounds gross, but hear me out. It's called fecal microbiota transplantation, or FMT. It's basically taking poo from a healthy person and giving it to someone with disease. Now, to understand how FMT works, we need to first look at the disease it's used to treat: Clostridium difficile infections. Clostridium difficile is a very, extremely tough bacteria. In fact, in Latin, difficile means difficult. Kind of like when my Chinese parents used to call me, difficult. These infections are often caused by an overuse of antibiotics that kill off healthy gut bacteria. Now, healthy gut bacteria help keep harmful bacteria like Clostridium difficile in check by a process called bacterial interference. Now, when healthy bacteria is around, it uses up resources and food. But when there isn't enough healthy bacteria around, the Clostridium difficile has more resources, and so it becomes stronger and more powerful, and it can cause mild to fatal diarrhea. So this is the part where eating a piece of me, or FMT, is very useful. Taking poo from a healthy person means it's filled with healthy gut bacteria that can help fight off Clostridium difficile. Now, FMT is a little bit like cooking. Let me show you, okay? So it first begins with shopping. We go shopping and we shop for a piece of poo from a healthy donor. It's then screened for infections like HIV and hepatitis. We want to make sure we get the good ones, right? And then a specimen of about 50 to 100 grams is scooped up and placed into a blender. And then we dilute it with sterile saline. Oh. And it's filtrated. A cup of poo, sir. Oh, no. Oh, I'm so sorry. That is not supposed to happen. It is then fed to the patient through a nasogastric tube, or through enema or colonoscope. And nowadays, it's even put into a pill form. Now, very quickly, this treatment, FMT, it has huge potential, very promising results. In fact, Clostridium difficile was originally supposed to be treated with an antibiotic called vancomycin. But a recent study has shown that while vancomycin can only treat about 25% of patients, FMT can cure over 85% of patients with Clostridium difficile infections. So it has really promising results and has the potential to treat many other diseases. So next time you take a poop, just, take a huge bite. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. This is very necessary because there have been reports of patients who have done DIY poo therapy, which is just do it yourself, which is no.
So I know that each of us has our own gut microbiome. In fact, we were doing experiments recently on Scott Kelly, who spent a year on the space station. His gut microbiome compared to his brother, identical twin brother, who was here on the ground. So why would my poo help you if we have our own microbiome populations?
Well, actually, it's really based on the idea that it's almost like these bacteria are competing. It's competing for resources. So it's not exactly the specifics of what bacteria is in the microbiome, but it's how these bacteria compete for resources so that one can grow more than the other. And it's also that these bacteria actually elicit some kind of immune response. It's a very particular, it alters the immune response in the body. And that's why it's actually used to treat many other diseases like Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis, many diseases we wouldn't even expect.
Wow. How big a problem are C. difficile infections for us to have to consider eating somebody else's poo? Now, how many people get these infections, and what are the knock-on effects?
You know what? I feel like that's one of those questions I really should have researched before I came on stage, but I didn't. But what I can tell you is that right now, the first-line therapy is still vancomycin. And that's because there's not enough research into FMT, into the long-term adverse effects of this treatment for it to be used as a first-line drug. And that's why we need more researchers. And we have to call more of those in the scientific community to be a part of researching this treatment so that we can really push it forward. I'm sorry, I didn't even answer your question, you know. I just... said what I wanted to say.
And you won't get a chance to, because that is where we have to leave it. Can we thank the excrement but excellent Nicole, Phoebe, Tanner. And Nicole may think she's played a brilliant trick by sabotaging the stage with some species of feces for the rest of us, but we are going to get somebody to come on and clean up that. Jim, we've got that sandwich for you if you still want it.
What is that, actually? Fine, good, thank you.
Phew, that's fine. I was slightly worried she was a member of a particular subspecies of the Ku Klux Klan, but I think it's right. I should also point out that Nicole pointed out to me that she is, of course, contestant number 2. And I pointed out to Nicole that Nicole Phoebe Tanner is an anagram of enable nicer poo then. So, funny how these things work out. Right, up, I think if we're satisfied with the level of the stage, Robin, thank you. We will move on to our AAA-rated Maltese champion, Anthea Aegeus Anastasi. After a first-class honours degree in engineering, Anthea is now at the Department of Metallurgy and Materials Engineering at Malta University, doing her PhD in molecular simulation and atomic probe studies on graphene. She's also an assistant lecturer there, so she's got a multi-dimensional career, even if she's studying a two-dimensional substance. And she's added in one more, it's a physics joke, thank you.
Good, I like
yeah, added in one more dimension by entering and winning FameLab and making it all the way to the international final. Unfettered applause for the Maltese-talented Anthea Aegeus Anastasi.
Close your eyes. Now open your nose. Do you remember the last time that you opened the door of a brand new car and you were hit with that particular pungent smell of new cars? Have you ever wondered what that smell is? Of course, it's the plastic. In fact, most of the interior of the car is made out of plastic. The steering wheel, the handbrake, the dashboard. But what is it about plastic that makes it smell that way? Now, to produce most plastic components, the plastic, which is mainly composed of long-chain molecules, is first softened into a liquid to be able to form it in the shape that we desire, and then left to cool to harden in that shape. Now, I always like to compare plastic to spaghetti or noodles, with each spaghetti strand being one of these long-chain molecules of plastic. Now, when we first cook spaghetti, it is runny, and it will take the shape of any bowl that we put it in. This resembles the molten plastic. After some time, this spaghetti dries out, and it will act like a solid lump of food. Similarly, the long-chain molecules in the plastic freeze in their positions intertwined in each other. Now, whoever cooks might notice that spaghetti, plain spaghetti, tends to stick to each other much quicker than if we add sauce to it beforehand. Similarly, in order for us to be able to produce plastic parts of much complex geometries, we add chemicals. These chemicals, called plasticizers, are very small molecules which sit between these long chain molecules of plastic to prevent them from sticking to each other. They resemble the sauce in our spaghetti, and just like we smell the sauce of the spaghetti because the sauce molecules are evaporating into the air that we breathe, we also smell the new plastic as these chemicals start to evaporating from the plastic. So eventually, back in the factory, when the dashboard is solidified and is mounted inside the car, these chemicals continue to escape from the solid plastic, filling the interior of the car with that smell of new cars. Unfortunately, these chemicals are toxic and possibly carcinogenic. The smell wears off after a few months, and is stronger in the hot summer days. Until then, I cannot tell you not to buy a new car ever again, but I do recommend that the next time that you ride in a brand new car, just leave the windows open.
Thank you very much. That was really interesting, and I'd sort of not really picked up in my life this point about plasticizers, and a question struck me. Given that, which is good, because of my church, but given that there is a problem with degradation of plastics and the environmental effects of plastics being around for a long time, is there something about plasticizers that we can exploit in order to accelerate the decomposition of plastics?
I never thought about that, no. I think the main problem about decomposing and whatnot is not the physical stuff that we see. For example, a few years back, we had this boom that we buy degradable plastic bags that just turn up into shreds. However, the long chains are still there, and that's the real problem. Now, these plasticizers are much smaller chains or just hydrocarbons. So they might not be much of a problem in that respect. I mean.
Thank you.
Yeah, I actually heard, it was on the news today, that in a few years' time, I forget when it was, and people may have seen the report, there'll be more plastic in the sea than fish, the total mass of plastic.
Yeah.
So when these plasticizers evaporate from plastic, is there a state that it reaches when there's not enough of these molecules to keep the plastic, the chains apart? I mean, is the long-term degradation of plastic anything to do with them starting to stick together because there's nothing to hold them apart?
Yes, in fact. So some plasticizers are there for use in the manufacturing so that it would be easier to manufacture. And some plasticizers are there, and other molecules are there so that the final component would be somewhat elastic, and it can take a hit. And if you notice, after some time, for example, if you leave PVC pipes on the roof, for example, under UV light, eventually they become brittle. And it may be due to the fact that these plasticizers are completely gone.
Right, okay, it does happen.
So yes, removing them will change the properties of the plastic.
Thank you.
Okay, she's from Malta. She did not falter. Give it all to the plastic. Fantastic. Anthea, Aegis, Athari. Now, Malta is by far the smallest country in this final, far smaller even than Hong Kong, which, of course, as we've established, is not a country. It's a special autonomous administrative region of the People's Republic of China. And next, we go to our champion from somewhere over 10,000 times larger than Malta and with roughly 3,000 times the population, India. Meher Bonkeel is a researcher at the Indian Institute of Technology in Mumbai, modeling stress-strain relationships in lithium-ion batteries. He's sufficiently energized by this to also find time to teach underprivileged students. Pardon? Oh. I am terribly sorry. I don't know how I've never got the order wrong before, but after 10 years, you're allowed one mistake. So all that stuff about... all that stuff about India, you're going to be hearing something along those lines in the kind of near future. Okay, I'm afraid I have no idea how the relative size difference between Malta and South Africa. I'd have to let you down on that one as well. But what I will say is, as everybody knows, our next finalist is our South African champion, Tsiamo Legoale. In her Twitter biography, Tsiamo describes herself as a God-fearing, rock-loving, life-appreciating young woman building a life before becoming a wife. Now, that may be true, but there's more to her than that. For starters, by rock-loving, she's not talking about music, it's your actual rocks in the ground. Tsiamo is a geologist working in the platinum city of Rustenburg, helping local and marginalized communities to mine ore legally. She's involved in whole local and marginal series of fascinating projects. And in the Tremi finals, she told us in wonderful detail about literal fields of gold, using wheat to hyper-accumulate gold to extract it from ore. Now, is she going to talk about another of those projects tonight? I have no idea. Are you going to be entertained? I absolutely guarantee it. Going for gold, it's FameLab South Africa 2017 winner, Tsiamo Legoale.
There's a number of ways that one can very easily obtain gold. Rihanna had to work, 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 work. But Adele had an even easier idea. One word, hello. And that got her gold in a couple of days. I'm no singer by any measurement. I am a geologist. And my method is to use wheat and to put it into certain types of soils. Yes, what you heard this morning as wheat beaks. And after some time, I could very literally harvest gold. But how? All aboard! Let me in. No, you let me in. I was here first. Ladies and gentlemen, Xylem Express will leave in 30 seconds. This might sound to you like a crazy day at the station, but what it actually is what happens on the roots of wheat plants that are placed on soils with gold. You see, small particles of gold enter the root system, but once they get there, they have to be transported to a final location. And when there, the only form of transport is xylem, tubular structures that, like a train, are responsible for moving water and minerals from the root to the shoots of the plant. Now, in most plants, xylem can only transport water and minerals, but in the wheat plant, there's a special cabin entirely for the tiny gold particles. And along the train journey, certain stops are made in hotels, and these are called parenchyma cells. Here, small groups of gold exit the train, and they check themselves into reception. They are given rooms specially for them in the cell vacuum. Now there, they can't bother anybody. They spend the day watching Netflix, while the train goes back to the station to pick up some other particles and transport them to other hotels, creating space for more particles to move from the soil and into the root system. Now, this cycle repeats itself over and over again, and it is known as the translocative capability of plants. It is what helps us to be able to tell which species would be most effective when doing phytomining. Phytomining would be the mining of metals using plants. And it represents a sunrise in the lives of many people. Very many people are disadvantaged, and these technologies, such as phytomining, could place all of us walking in fields of gold.
Very well, Tsiamo. So you're a geologist?
Yes.
And you're talking botany? I guess. I mean, the analogies that you used, are these things that you've come up with to help bring the subject alive?
Yes, I had to. I had no idea how I was going to explain translocation without the use of a train, which is essentially the movement of metals from a root to parenchyma cells, which could be in the branches or the stems or even the leaves.
And the magic trick works very well as well.
It does, until your finger gets stuck in the rubber band.
Thank you.
So obviously this only works in places where the soil is really enriched in gold. So is that due to mine tailings, or it's just inherent in the soil itself? You can tell I'm also a geologist.
At the moment, we're actually running tests on tailings dumps in South Africa. So these would be gold waste that has residual amounts of gold within them. We are using wheat to try and absorb the gold from those soils.
Can you also do it with toxic, in mine tailings, toxic chemicals that get into the water are really a problem. Can we use this technique for that too?
Actually, the background of phytomining started as phytoremediation, where studies were done in West Australia, trying to clean up an oil spillage using beetroot. And the beets would suck up the lead from the soil. So that's where it originates. That's where we got the idea that we could actually use certain plants to purposefully extract certain metals and minerals from soils.
And then how do we get the gold, in this case, out of the wheat? Is it just a very simple filtration question? Or is this the question you were waiting for?
How we get the wheat actually out of the plant is we harvest the wheat and we incinerate it at very high temperatures to form a gold-bearing bioore. Then, liquid extraction is used to get the gold out of the ash and into a liquid form. And smelting is then applied to make it metallic again.
Oh, right, so if we're burning the wheat, is that an environmental consideration compared with standard forms of mining then? Oh, none of it.
Two things. Things that we must consider when we incinerate. Firstly, the incineration process itself produces power, which can be used for electricity. Secondly, the wheat seeds themselves do not take up the gold because it travels in the xylem, and the only thing that transports minerals to the seeds is phloem. So it does not travel in that, it travels in xylem. So we can harvest the seeds and eat those. Environmentally sound, right?
Okay, I have to leave it there. Our golden girl from South Africa, Siamo Legoale. So here we are, we're not even halfway through, and the stage is covered in fake gold and fake feces. That must say something about life. By the way, just while I was off stage there, I found out whose fault it was about getting the order wrong, and I have to say, it was entirely mine. So we'll leave it to that. Right, so our fifth FameLab international finalist, and our first male one, is Portuguese champion David Beador. That is right, isn't it? Good, fine. David's studying now for a master's in oncology at the University of Porto, searching for molecules that might be early indicators of prostate cancer. Now, it's not hard to work out why David entered FameLab. He says, as well as loving both science and stories, that's telling them and listening to them, ever since he was a tiny tot, he's been interested in our globe and its many nations. Apparently, aged 2, David could identify over 50 different countries on a world map, and he says he dreams of getting to know as many different countries as possible. In the last couple of days, he's had a chance to find out about more than 30 of them, if you count China, Hong Kong, which is a special autonomous region, through their FameLab champions. So whether he wins tonight or not, he's already well on the way to his dream coming true. He's a world meter and greeter, but is he a world beater? Be global, be vocal for our FameLab Portugal 2017 winner, David Beador.
Tonight, I'm going to tell you a story. The story of the first day of your life. It all started with a date between a rich girl and a poor boy. The rich girl comes from a wealthy family, and she has everything she wants. She has proteins, sugars, energy molecules, much more than she really needs. She's the egg. But why does the egg have so many things? Because it was carefully prepared for this state by your mom. Actually, your mom already had the egg before her birth, but in an immature form. And during her life, she progressively enriches these immature eggs, making a large, complete egg each month. But there is something that our rich girl doesn't have. Half of her DNA. DNA is the molecule that contains our information, like the color of our eyes and our skin, or our height. And DNA is packaged in very small units called chromosomes. Usually you have 46 chromosomes, but our rich girl has only 23. And despite all her wealth, she's not able to get the other 23 chromosomes by herself. She needs someone. And so she waits. She patiently waits on the royal palace on the top of the mountain, which is called Fallopian Tube, for a young man to bring her what she's looking for. On the other side, we have our poor, thin boy who barely eats and really needs someone to help him. It's the sperm. The sperm knows that the egg is waiting for someone, and so he gambled everything he had on this trip. And that's why cells' energy factories, which are called mitochondria, are all concentrated on the tail of the sperm so that it can swim as fast as possible to get to the egg. But there's one problem. The sperm has a lot of competition. There can be up to 150 million sperms interested in the egg. It's like all inhabitants of Russia were looking to the same girl, but only one can win. And so, what happens next? Well, this crazy race starts, which can last up to 4 days. The winning sperm enters the egg, the chromosomes match one another, and here you are. This is the first day of your life in which you are a single cell and you are called a zygote. But do not think the worst is over. Now an equally insane journey starts, the honeymoon, in which the zygote has to grow, travel to the mother's uterus, and survive alone for about 9 days, only with the nutrients brought by the egg, until finally implants itself in the uterus and comes home. This is a very difficult task, and it is estimated that 2 out of 3 zygotes cannot make it and end up dying. But you made it. So congratulations. Now you just have to wait 9 months, and here you are. Thank you.
So I love this analogy. Really fun. And those poor, unlucky guys. I mean, luckily in real life, they don't all die.
Unfortunately, yes. But someone has to win, and there can be only one winner.
Luckily, real life isn't like that.
Yeah,
so.
that's real life, yeah.
I don't know. I gave my wife 10 years to find somebody better, and she did. I really like the analogy as well. I really like the way that you brought a new, fresh perspective to what is a relatively well-known story, I suppose, the story of fertilization. How closely related is this to your work? You know, what are you looking at in order to find these early indicators of prostate cancer, and how did you bring that forward in this presentation?
Actually, it has nothing to do with my work nowadays. But I was asked to bring a completely different topic for the final. And so I brought some story. I like to tell stories about science. And I thought this one would be interesting, and we can, although it's a very known story, as you say, but we can put a lot of science in it, and things that people think they say, but they don't think they know, but they don't really know. And so we can put a lot of science here and learn a lot.
I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, following on from Tim's point, this isn't your subject. Is it something that, I mean, the analogies and the storytelling, is that something that you had to put together? Have you told this story before in this way? Have you read about it in this way?
Yeah, I have told it in the national competition in Portugal, but in Portuguese.
Okay.
And
I guess it'd be the same.
Yeah, yeah, almost the same. But I like to tell stories. I told it to my family and some friends, and they really enjoyed it. Oh, the analogies are nice. And so I just build up something more with some scientific content, and then to perform this story.
Thank you.
Okay. Just before you go, what does the Royal Palace of Fallopian Tubes translate as in Portuguese?
Actually, we call fallopian tube the fallopian horn, like a music instrument in Portuguese. So I don't know why, but I can make a different analogy because it's a music instrument.
Or maybe where the phrase "getting the horn" comes from. Okay, David Beador. Thank you very much indeed. The fertile mind of our Portuguese champion. Right, now, this may sound ever so slightly familiar, but we have our FameLab winner from India now, Maya Bonkil, who, you'll be shocked to know, is a researcher at the Indian Institute of Technology in Mumbai, modeling, that's right, stress-strain relationships in lithium-ion batteries. Now, he is sufficiently energized by this to also find time to teach underprivileged students, and when not researching or teaching, he loves theatre, drama, music, and above all, reading. In yesterday's Tremi final, Maya gave us some fascinating insights into the world's first fully solar-powered airport, which is at Kochi, I think, in Kerala. But where's he going to be taking us in the next 3 minutes? I have absolutely no idea, but he's powered up and ever ready to go, so a big boost of applause, please, for our Indian champion, Maya Bonkil.
Longitude 72 degree east, latitude 18 degree north, Mumbai. 6 kilowatt hour per meter square solar radiation in month of May. Oh, namaskar. I just calculated solar energy potential using Solar Calculator, an Android app developed by the Indian Space Research Organization. But why the world is taking so much interest in solar energy? Because it has potential to satisfy the energy demand of the global population. Solar cells directly convert sunlight into electricity in 3 simple steps. First, absorption of solar radiation. Second, release and transport of electrons. Third, collection of electrons in the form of direct current. If we cover the entire Sahara Desert with solar cells, then energy demand of the world can be satisfied. However, there are some challenges. Solar radiation is like Cheltenham weather, totally unpredictable and inconsistent. Also, we have maximum energy demand when the solar radiation is minimum. To overcome such shortfalls, we need a better energy storage system. And the solution is in your pocket, your mobile battery, the lithium-ion battery. The excess energy generated by the solar cells in the afternoon can be stored in the lithium-ion battery. This stored energy will be used to meet the excess power demand during morning and night. The rechargeable lithium-ion battery can be the backbone of energy storage system due to its high energy and power density, lighter weight, low maintenance, and operating voltage. This electrochemical energy storage device is so special because of lithium ions. During energy storage, the lithium ions moves from the positive to the negative electrode. There is a separator between the 2 electrodes. This separator permits only lithium ions, not electrons. Your battery is fully charged when the negative electrode hosts all the lithium ions. During energy release, the exactly reverse process happens, and the electrons flows through the external circuit, generating direct current. Due to this back and forth motion of lithium ions during energy storage and release, lithium-ion battery, also known as rocking chair battery. Solar energy has proved as a viable option to reduce our dependence on fossil fuels. Hence, for its effective use, one must have efficient, safe, and cost-effective lithium-ion battery technology. Friends, it's time to think what kind of environment we want to give to our next generation? A better world or atmosphere with toxic gases? Choice is yours. Thank you. Electron.
Thank you very much. I found that really interesting. And you brought out the example of a mobile phone battery.
Yeah.
If lithium-ion batteries are going to be a viable energy storage option for a home, how big would the battery have to be in a standard home?
So right now, a lot of development and research is going on material and the electrolyte that we use. If we think about the current scenario, it will be this much big, okay? Like Tesla wall you might have seen. So that's the thing. But if you come with some new material that can be more environmental friendly, like some bacteria or some particle from the fruit, then definitely we can reduce the size. So I have a dream, like can we recharge the a battery in India and export it to the rest of the world, like our yoga and mangoes. That can be good.
And of course, one of the problems with burning fossil fuels is that we use petrol in our cars, and moving to electric cars needs the development of lightweight, long-lasting batteries.
Yeah.
So are lithium-ion batteries not too bulky and heavy to be transported around in cars? I mean, are there technologies being developed to get more efficient types of batteries?
So right now, if the Tesla car, if you talk, there are 7,000 number of cells. So that's a huge number. The entire chassis is made up of battery. So right now, definitely it is bulky, but I hope in future, lots of things are going on because it's just 25-year-old technology. First lithium-ion battery that we launched, that was in 1991 by Sony. So I think we should give some time to this poor guy. Definitely it will improve because we are talking about development of technology. Growth, it happens naturally, but development takes time.
Is there a lot of investment in this? Because I know there's also issues with lithium-ion batteries with them sometimes catching on fire and causing some trouble.
Yes. Safety is an issue. You might have heard in the news, explosion of the lithium-ion battery. Something happened with a very famous mobile company. So that was... So in that, there was a problem with the separator that I told, which allows only lithium ions, not electron. But due to that failure, the electrons was there and the short circuit and boom, blast.
Okay, get your hands mobile for the batteries, not India included. Mayor Bob Keel. Batteries not India included. You get that one? That's good. I like that one as well. Thank you very much. I thought you hadn't heard it, you see, as well. Now, Mayor, like several of our FameLabbers tonight, has come several thousand miles to be here for this 5 minutes. One has even come more than 10,000 miles. This next one, though, has come, we reckon, about 40. Our UK champion, Alex Lathbridge, is doing his biochemistry PhD at Bath University, researching new ways to combat cancer. I'm not sure how much time Alex actually spends in the lab, because he also works in TV with programs like Horizon and on stage as an acclaimed science rapper. He's been called the best in the UK, although how many other UK science rappers there are is not a statistic I can lay my hands on. Alec is interested in phonetics as well as semantics, in cadence as well as science, and combines them to create hip-hop that holds a mirror to imposter syndrome and opens up big ideas to new audiences. Some things in life lack rhyme or reason. Alex has both. In his Tremi-final, he talked about contraception, but there is no stopping our FameLab UK winner, Alex Lathbridge.
So, tell me, what rhymes with epilepsy? Pepsi? Narcolepsy? Jim Al-Khalili's looking pretty sexy. What? No. Yes, no, yes. In the UK, where 500, 600,000 of us have epilepsy, that's 1 in 100, and this place holds 400, so come on, 4 more of us, we can decide on a 5-side team, or a D&D group, whatever. What rhymes with epilepsy is a 78-year-old woman. This woman, after being diagnosed with epilepsy and having her seizures controlled through medication, she presented with hypergraphia, and that's compulsive writing. And she did it through the form of poetry, and no one really knows why. Was it due to the epilepsy? Was it due to the medication? Or a mix of both? We don't know. And that really sets a scene for epilepsy as a whole. Just, we know a lot, not enough. In the past, we were seen as people talking to gods, and so we're revered. In some places in the present, we're seen as people who are inhabited by evil spirits, and we should be destroyed. So what I'm trying to say is there's a lot of misunderstanding on both sides of the spectrum. But, you know, what really is it? Well, I'm going to get explicit. It's a condition meaning your brain, it might fire on synchronized rhythms. And you're probably wondering, why is rhythm bad? People always say, I need more rhythm in my life. Well, when it comes to the nervous system, one thing's fundamental. It's that every potential action you do requires an action potential. Just call it a nerve impulse. It's just the consequence of neural membrane ion exchange. And you get a resulting difference that depolarizes and repolarizes your neurons. What? Okay, like a Mexican wave, charge, it falls and rises and then carries on again, with each of your neurons relaying an electrical message, and then it gets to rest for like a millisecond. And that could be for anything from lifting a cup to tapping your head while doing a weird belly rub. But when you're having a seizure, you're not feeling like a winner, because your brain starts firing in patterns like angry synchronized swimmers, because normally when you're walking and talking, neurons in different parts of your brain, they're firing off at random, but when you're having a seizure, cluster them, they start to pattern. So like I said, walking, talking, doing things, different part of your brain is going. It can be described sort of like, but when you're having a seizure, you get hypersynchronous neural activity in one part of your brain. So it's more like, and that's not really great, not really useful information, and that's what leads to the seizure. Okay, well, what can give you seizures? Well, it can be genetic or acquired. I'll start with the former, then I'll move to the latter as acquired. Because some of these seizures, they can reflect a single gene defect, causing neuronal upset, or it can be more indirect, like a stuntman who hits his head internally bled with no O2 getting fed. Okay, well, what triggers seizures? Well, yeah, you guys are kind of right, but there are other triggers apart from flashing lights, low blood sugar, maybe high stress, or really any imbalance in what's in your head. Okay, science over, I've got some time left. There are a couple of things I need to address. You can say brainstorm, I don't get offended. There's one thing I think, though, needs to be appended. If you see someone having a seizure, put them in recovery position, just sit, and don't stick anything in my mouth. I won't swallow this. Thank you.
So, run by me again.
Okay.
The rhythm of the neural signaling when you have a seizure.
When you're having a seizure, you get hypersynchronous neural activity, and it can be in sort of a specific part of your brain, which is a localized seizure, or it can be generalized all over the brain.
So what do you mean? Hypersynchronous?
You want hypersynchronous.
Yep,
It would be more like that.
As opposed to?
As opposed to that was a bit more fun, just for you, Jim.
Okay. Thank you.
It's a great analogy though, because I would have thought, I was waiting for the noise you were going to make, and I thought it was going to just be complete noise cacophony instead of being more like a
rhythm.
To date myself, like a stuck record. You guys don't know what records are.
Everyone gets that pop culture reference, don't we? Yeah.
You're not going to make me feel bad for being.
She's relevant. Come on.
I've got 3 children. I'm used to being told I'm old. Don't worry.
I mean, chief scientist, NASA, like.
That's better.
What have they got?
The way you were describing hypersynchronicity, is that offering any clues as to potential?
Sorry.
Is that the way you were describing the rhythm within the brain when there's a seizure? Yeah. Is that offering any clues to treatments?
So what a lot of people are trying to do is they're trying to look at this understanding of epileptogenesis, sort of that point at which your brain goes from normal to having a seizure. And that's the bit that they don't quite get. They sort of understand, okay, this is what a brain having a seizure looks like when they rig you up with an ECG. So that's sort of a cap. If anyone's ever had a seizure, I have, they put you on a cap and they want to measure your brain to see if you actually have epilepsy or it might be sort of something else. And that's helping them understand, sort of those signals help them understand and help you understand sort of different types of epilepsy people can have.
Okay, as near as you can manage to hypersynchronous applause, please, for our UK winner, Alex Lathbridge. Now, I mentioned right at the start our pride and joy at FameLab being something that's been embraced by some of the big beasts of science like CERN and NASA, and I'm doffing my cap to you, Ellen, now as we say this. But we've also had endorsements from Nobel Prize winners. James Watson, one of the strands of the DNA, said it was the best night out he'd had in years. And we've also had involvement from global leaders. The president of Egypt set up a special reception for all the winners of FameLab Egypt after he'd seen the show on TV. The king, and in particular the Queen of Spain, regularly go along to the Spanish FameLab final, and Queen Letizia often presents the prizes, as she did this year. But nothing quite compares with what happened at the first ever Mauritius final this year, where the president, Her Excellency, Dr. Amina Gurib Fakim, was one of the judges. Fully participating, it was great. Now, for complex geopolitical and national security reasons, which I cannot go into, I hosted that final. And it really did change on a minute-to-minute basis as to whether you had to call her Her Excellency or Amina. But it means I can, though, say with complete confidence that our next and penultimate finalist is here with full presidential approval, the FameLab Mauritius winner, Roshni Rajkumar. After a chemistry degree from the University of Mauritius, Roshni has somehow survived 10 years in one of the toughest jobs in the world, being a school science teacher. It may or may not be relevant, she's also done courses in wrestling and self-defense. Roshni is now a chemistry educator at the Adventist College in Mauritius and studying for a postgraduate certificate in education. Although she says she loves science, Roshni says what really motivates her is transmitting that passion to her students, which for tonight's purposes means us. Now, in the Tremi final, she gave us some illuminating ideas about new ways to combat cancers, but given that she says she's particularly interested in forensic chemistry, astronomy, and sustainable development, who knows what area of science she'll be delving into now? I'll tell you who knows. Our first ever FameLab Mauritius winner, Roshni Rajkumar.
Kiribati, Solomon Island, Fiji, 3 low-lying countries that have been predicted to disappear by the end of this very century due to a rise in sea level. The culprit, carbon dioxide, this gas which absorbs and traps heat in the Earth's atmosphere, causing the global temperature to rise, hence a rise in sea level due to thermal expansion of the oceans and the melting of polar ice caps. The amount of carbon dioxide in air has been constantly increasing since the Industrial Revolution due to the burning of petrol, which is made of a mixture of these types of substances called alkanes, made of carbon and hydrogen atoms attached to each other. And when we burn petrol, these carbon and hydrogen atoms detach from each other, combine with oxygen in air to form water and carbon dioxide, which move off into the atmosphere. Now imagine that we can take back these carbon dioxide molecules, put them back together with water to get back our alkane. Plants have been doing a process similar to this for millions of years, photosynthesis, by which they combine carbon dioxide and water to produce their food, glucose. Today, we can also do it in a single-step reaction called alkane reverse synthesis. This reaction does not even require a large amount of energy. It takes place in the presence of light and heat that can both be concentrated from the sun and a photocatalyst, which helps the reaction take place. And what makes this reaction even more interesting as a fuel alternative for our vehicles is that it is producing the same fuel that our vehicles are using today. So no need to replace all the vehicles of the world, nor the current fuel distribution system. Now, in case some of you are still wondering, like, what is the point of taking carbon dioxide from air, putting it back together as alkanes, and then burning it to send it right back into the atmosphere? That is not really helping with the global warming problem, right? Wrong. The difference we're bringing is that we're not digging the carbon from the ground to send it into the air. We're taking from the air to send it right back there. That is what we call a carbon neutral process. Even though we're not decreasing the amount of carbon dioxide, we're not increasing it either. So that would definitely put a brake on the global warming problem. We, as citizens of the world, and people who care about the impact that we're having on Earth and on future generations, it is imperative that we seriously start looking into these alternative methods of fuel production. Thank you.
this idea of geoengineering, can we find a way to take CO2 out of the atmosphere? If it's so easy, how come we're not doing it yet?
This process that I'm talking about, like in a single-step reaction, is relatively new. It has been published only last year. But there have been processes where it has already been done through three-step reactions, the Fischer-Tropsch reaction, for example, through coal, and then converting it to carbon monoxide, and then reacting it with hydrogen, which has been produced through electrolysis. So that would still be a three-step reaction, but even that is being done on a smaller scale. This one is even more promising, because if it is in a single step, then the amount of energy loss would be less, first of all, like we know. And coming back to the question that, can we take the carbon dioxide from the air? Yes, because there is also that development that has been done where we can take the air, pass it through filters, where we can absorb it because carbon dioxide is acidic, so we can make it react with an alkaline substance like sodium hydroxide, and then transforming it to sodium carbonate, and then extracting the carbon dioxide from that carbonate, where the rest of the air is sent back into the atmosphere. So yes, even that is done.
Well, so I now have a vision in my mind of the power plants of the future being essentially vacuums sucking air from the atmosphere and converting it into fuel. Is that a viable image, or am I just being ridiculous?
No, you're not being ridiculous at all.
Makes a change, doesn't it?
Yes, because if we look at it like alternative methods of fuel production like hydrogen or even solar, that is going to take years until the method's perfected. And we already have a technology in place for the use of petrol as a transport fuel. So as a transition method into other methods like solar or hydrogen, so that really comes as a viable alternative. And yes, it has already been done. The plant's already there. It has been tried and tested. It just needs to be scaled up so that we can actually, like for example, the plants that have been put in place, in one day, it could take like the amount of carbon dioxide produced by like 300,000 cars. So if it is scaled up, right? But yes, we can do it, and it is already being researched into.
Okay, I have to leave it there. Alkane Alchemy from the winner of our Mauritian competition, Roshni Rajkumar. That was climatic, and it was very nearly climactic, because we are on to our final FameLab finalist, and it's also our furthest flung, our reigning Australian champion, Neural Chokchetin. Now, despite working in an unusual field, and Neural Chokchetin being an anagram of reckon lunatic, there is nothing fringy or flaky about Neural's research. She asked me about anagrams after the first heat, and I had one in reserve. Now, she's a melittologist, which means she studies honey. And she doesn't just study it. Neural's found several very interesting, potentially hugely beneficial things about it, particularly its ability to kill off unwanted microbes without any nasty side effects. Now, she's studied over 2 dozen different Australian honeys, and her work has led to a world first, a prebiotic honey product, now registered as a therapeutic agent in Australia, although apparently it works in other countries too. Now, unsurprisingly, Neural's talked about her research in yesterday's Tremi final, so will she stick with honey tonight, or maybe move on to peanut butter, or Marmite, Vegemite, she's an Australian. Get ready to spread the love and the honey for our buzzy Aussie FameLab winner, Neural Chokchetin.
For over a century, we believed that avoiding bacteria or removing them from our bodies and our environment was the right way to stay healthy. But now we understand that bacteria, they're everywhere, and they can actually do us a lot more good than harm. And it's just as well because we have more bacteria on just one fingertip than there are people living in all of Britain. There are trillions of bacteria living on and inside of us in communities that we call microbiomes. The largest community lives at the very end of our digestive tract, in our gut. And just a warning here, I work on the gut microbiome, which means that I'm going to stand here and literally talk crap. So, how much should we care about these freeloading critters living in our guts? Well, it turns out a lot. Our gut bacteria exist in this delicate balance of beneficial and harmful types, and they play a huge role in the normal functioning of our body, our nutrition and health, and even help to regulate our immune system. Because of this, there's massive interest in pushing the balance in favor of these beneficial populations. For some time, we've known that different diets create different microbiomes, and this is why we're also interested in prebiotics. Now, these are complex carbohydrates or sugars that we don't digest ourselves, so they reach the lower gut, where they can be used as a food source by our beneficial gut bacteria. So during my PhD, I asked whether honey could be a prebiotic. And you might not immediately think so, because honey is made up mostly of simple sugars, fructose and glucose, which we absorb in the body way before they could even reach our gut bacteria. But I was looking at the complex sugars in these Australian honeys to see if they could be prebiotics. In an artificial gut system in the lab, I found that all of these honeys boost the numbers of the beneficial bacteria, which then stop the growth of these harmful ones. And the bacteria also started making beneficial compounds like butyrate, which helps to protect against colon cancer, one of the leading cancer killers worldwide. Now, I know it all sounds great in theory, but how does it translate in real life? And does it mean we need to eat buckets of honey to see these benefits? To find out, I conducted a human clinical study where we had 50 participants eating honey for a month while I looked at the changes in their gut populations. And I found for the first time that just 20 grams of honey, roughly a tablespoon a day, was enough to make positive changes. The wrong balance in our microbiome is implicated in many pathologies, including bowel diseases, allergy, obesity, and even mental health issues. So changing these populations can have extensive health benefits. The direct impact from my research has been a world-first prebiotic honey, which is registered as a therapeutic agent in Australia. So, to keep your microbiome sweet, just treat it with some honey. Thank you.
Thanks, that's really interesting. Really terrific to see an example of some research that's already having a societal impact as well, actually. I wonder, with the prop that you used there, you have a balance between good bacteria and bad bacteria. And given that our bodies exist in this state of homeostasis, keeping a balance, if you feed your gut bacteria too much of these prebiotics, does that increase the population of good bacteria? And then can you have too much of a good thing? Is there something that goes wrong if you have too many good bacteria?
It's a very good question. So the reason that these bacteria are actually good bacteria is that they don't have nasty side effects. And when I talk about this balance, that they do exist in this balance. And when I talk about harmful bacteria, I've oversimplified it a little bit, obviously, for this talk. But these are bacteria that just live there. They usually do beneficial things themselves if they're fed the right thing as well. But if they're given an environment where they're not fed the right thing, that's when they can turn nasty and cause really nasty infections, bowel diseases, colon cancer. So when we talk about good, we're talking about the overall balance is good. It's not necessarily there's plenty more of the good ones than the bad ones. Yeah, they just all behave better.
And so the honey that we would normally get in the supermarket isn't prebiotic. Say the sugars there are too simple. Is that right? Or, I mean, what do you need to do to turn it into something that's going to
Good question.
Go all the way down to the bottom of your gut where you need it?
I've only really studied Australian honey, but I do know that all honey will have some level of these complex sugars, so they're called oligosaccharides. And around the world, you know, the literature suggests that they range from anywhere between 2% up to 12% of the total sugars in honey. So the honey here might actually be better than the ones that I've tested. It doesn't seem to necessarily be the amount of those complex sugars in the honey either. So in these honeys, there was only between 2 and 4% of the total sugars that were the complex sugars, and we're seeing huge benefits. So it's just a very small amount that you need. All honey will have a prebiotic effect. We're just trying to figure out which of those sugars are the most important, so which of them are doing the most beneficial things in the gut.
So I can carry on sneaking out to the kitchen, having my bread and honey in the evening when I'm peckish, and it's good for me.
Yes, have a few different types of honey, and they'll all be doing something slightly different in your gut.
Okay, I'm sorry, time is honey. Have to leave it there for the 9th of our 9 FameLabbers, Neural Chokchetin. And stop torturing yourself, Jim, by talking about food. You were hungry when you came on, and now you're talking about bread and honey. You're making it outside. So Neural is into meritology. We are into meritocracy. She did good, but did she deserve to win? Will she be among us? We're about to find out because time has come for our judges to decide on who will be crowned FameLab International Champion 2017. And I'm using the phrase crowned figuratively. Our generous sponsors haven't actually provided for an actual crown, okay? So we're very grateful to them, but no actual crown. Now, judges, can I just say to you, Ellen, you're used to missions that take years to plan and years to come back with the data. Jim, you're a theoretical physicist where if the evidence doesn't match the theories, you just dream up something new to go looking for. And Tim, you're used to all those committees and things like that in quangos that drag on for ages. This is not that kind of thing. So by all means, hustle and tussle and rustle, but get us back to us. You've got 15 minutes to reach a decision. You need to come up with 2 worthy runners-up, 1 worthy winner, and 6 countries you will never again be allowed to visit, okay? And you need to do it in 50 minutes. So off you go. Can we send them on their way with some motivating applause, please? Right, now, while they're away, don't go anywhere. We've got work to do. We've got votes to do. If you can vote before you go, if you're sneaking out there, fine. Now, this is for the true people's champion, okay? There are no polling booths, but it is just the same idea as an election. X in the box for whoever you think did the best 3-minute presentation and coped best with the judges' questions. Now, can I just say, many of you will be here to support friends, or because you're from the same part of the world as someone, or have ties of family or friendship, or fancying them from afar. Please put all of those aside. Voting is anonymous, and every vote counts, so make it for the person you truly believe deserves to win. By all means, tell whoever you've come with that you voted for them. They will never know, okay, unless they were really the best. Now, if you were not at the Tremi-finals yesterday, you missed seeing brilliant FameLab champions from Azerbaijan, Brazil, Bulgaria, Cyprus, the Czech Republic, Egypt, Estonia and Latvia, France, Germany, Greece, Ireland, Italy, Kazakhstan, Korea, Malaysia, Netherlands, Poland, Qatar, Spain, Switzerland, not Swaziland, Thailand and Vietnam. You missed some scintillating, devastating bits of science, and it was free. But tonight we have had some fantastic stuff from winners from Australia, Hong Kong, India, Malta, Mauritius, Portugal, South Africa, Uganda, and the UK. Strictly alphabetical order. So who will you vote for? Just in case you're having trouble making your mind up or recalling who was who, we've got a little video to jog your memories before you vote.
Hi, my name is Irene, and I'm representing Uganda.
Hi, I'm Nicole Tanner from Hong Kong.
Hi, I'm Antea. I'm from Malta.
Hi everybody, my name is Tiamole Hwale and I am from South Africa.
Hi, I'm David. I'm from Portugal.
Namaskar, I am Mayur from India, the incredible India.
I'm Alex and I'm from the UK.
I'm Roshni Rajkumar from Mauritius.
Hi, I'm Naral. I'm from Australia.
I heard about FameLab from Facebook, actually. I had a look at it and I signed up and I got selected.
There's so many different cultures, 31 different countries.
My supervisor at work actually entered me to the competition. It's extremely exhilarating being up on that stage.
Although we are all scientists, the way we think of science is slightly different. So it's very interesting to understand how people think and how people act.
I come to know about FameLab through my institute.
Science communication to me means there's no more us and them when it comes to science and the general public. It's helping people understand science, and it's helping scientists understand what's actually important to people.
Mauritius is participating in FameLab for the first time this year. The president of our country who introduced it, she is a scientific and she really wanted to see FameLab happening in Mauritius.
I found out about FameLab through my university. There was someone else who entered the year before and they really raved about the training that you get.
Today I talked about our immune responses to malaria and what makes malaria so dangerous to us humans.
You might not recognize me right now, but I'm Pooh, and I talked about fecal microbiota transplantation, otherwise known as eating poo.
Tonight I answered the age-old question of, what is that new car smell? It's all about explaining our everyday life through science.
Tonight, I gave a talk about the translocation ability of plants. That is, the ability of plants to move metals from their roots to their shoots.
And tonight, I'm going to tell you the story of the first day of your life in which you were a single cell.
Today, I'm going to talk about tapping the green power, that is, power of the solar, and how lithium-ion battery can play a major role in achieving this big dream for our Mother Earth.
I was Alex and I spoke about epilepsy.
Today, I just talked to you about Alkane reverse combustion. It is a process by which we can combine carbon dioxide and water back into synthetic petrol.
And tonight I'll be talking about how we can use honey to boost the good bacteria that live in our gut.
Video them from the FameLabers themselves in the front row. Okay, so now vote please and be quick about it. Get your bits of paper into the ballot boxes. There are 2 down here. You'll see them being waved around. 2 upstairs as well, I believe. I don't know if there's any lights up there as well, ballot boxes. Every vote counts, so please do make it count, and all will be counted provided you are swift. Now, because you're being a good electorate, unlike the real one, there are going to be no broken election promises. No dodgy coalitions. Instead, we're going to give you a reward, something over and above what we promised. A short set from one of the most in-demand, sciencey comedy performers not to have recently completed a show over at the EDF Energy Arena. A physicist by training, he hosts TV shows of his own devising in his native Belgium and beyond. He tours and performs in Dutch and English. I think it's the English version tonight. I should have checked, really. And he has a sellout run at the Edinburgh Fringe. It's a real treat to have him here tonight, so please give an elaborate parabola welcome to Lievenscheer.
You. Thanks, cheers. Hello. Hello. We're so happy to have a Belgian performer too here. Didn't make it to the finals, the other one. So hey, hello, welcome. Great to be here at FameLab International. I love it. It's the annual feast of nervous young scientists. And I have the grateful task now to talk to you while all you want to know are the results. But hey, we gotta wait, we gotta wait. It's all these nervous young scientists. Last time I saw so many nervous young scientists together was the day that the funding budgets were announced. That's when they do that too. Yeah, good. So let me introduce myself. My name is Lieven. This is my actual name. It's a bit difficult when I'm in English. Well, I'm performing in English, and I come on stage and I say, hi, I'm Lieven. Often a bit of confusion at that point. One of my hobbies is going to train stations and shouting, stop the train, I'm leaving. Because that's who I am, yes. Good thing is this first name makes me UKIP's favorite foreigner in the UK. It does. So that's the nice thing for me. Yeah. My last name is Scheere. That's how it's pronounced in Dutch. Scheere. We have a lot of the g sounds in Dutch. We sometimes say Dutch is not a language, it's a disease of the throat. And that's why we have the Scheere. It is, well, it's hardly ever pronounced right in English. No problem, of course. We make it very difficult for you. One time I was announced as leaving Shire. Which technically made me the first chapter in the Hobbit book. But still. So, Lievenscheer, that's who I am. And I'm a science communicator, that's right. That's what I do in Belgium. I travel the country and I explain science to people. Travel is a big word when you're from Belgium. I walk from one side of the country to the other and explain science to everyone I meet. Yes. Do we have other Belgians here, by the way? Are there any Belgians? No, none whatsoever. Afraid of the elections, I guess. Afraid that we're going to cut off the ferry and everything, yes. But you know Belgium, it's a famous country in Europe, very famous for our export products. We have 3. We have beer, chocolate, and Europe. It's, that's what we export. That's what we do after a tiring day of brewing beer and making chocolate. We sit down at the fireplace and we handcraft big chunks of Europe. And then we send them abroad and we stuff them down your throats, whether you like it or not. And we seem to be losing a market here. It's, I don't know. At some point, and well, I'm not involved, so I'm not judging at any point. It's just an observation. At some point, the British said, no more. We don't want Europe, and we don't need Europe, and we're an independent country. We have our own national character, and we don't want this meddling from a capital far away. And then the Scots went, oh, that sounds brilliant. So that's where we are. And today, another election. So much fun. It's the big political game in the UK. It's gambling with democracy. It's like, I put my political future on black. The second time this year, because this is the year that democracy went mad. And it all started here in Britain with Boaty McBoatface. That's the exact moment that democracy said, okay, that's it. I've been around for 2,000 years. I'm pretty tired. I'm off for a holiday on the nice Greek island of Populismus. And that's where she is now. That's where she is. So we don't have to count on democracy anymore. Yes, good. But FameLab, you're still there, still waiting, still nervous. No, it's amazing to see all these people coming from all over the world, traveling to England to try to beat you at a competition that you invented yourself. It's almost like the Premier League, one could say. Yeah. I was backstage, I was trying to calculate how many kilometers that we traveled all together to be here. Is everybody comfortable with kilometers? Yes. I always ask, because you never know. It happens, because we're all scientific, so I guess we're all into the metric system, but every now and then you meet people who don't know what a kilometer is. I always take the time to explain. I always say it's very simple. A kilometer is a bit like a mile, except it's real. So that's the difference. It's the difference between, it's a system that we kind of internationally agreed to use. It's the metric, it's a brand new decision. It's only 200 years old. And that's what we do now, and we don't need feet and inches anymore. We have the metric system. And we do this because we live in the 21st century, and we don't measure things with our thumbs and our feet anymore. We don't. We don't. But still, you're in an airplane, and the pilot will say, ladies and gentlemen, we are now 20,000 feet above the ground. And that doesn't make sense. Because the last thing I would measure with my foot. You can't. I've tried. They're too fast. It's impossible. Helicopter, maybe. Airplane, never. So we don't need to do. We have the metric system. And it's so much easier in calculations. You have 10 millimeters in a centimeter, 10 centimeters in a decimeter, and 10 decimeters. And you don't need all this trouble with 12 inches in a foot, it is, right? And then 3 feet in a yard, and 27.5 yards in a kangaroo's jump, or whatever Oompa Loompa units are still around. We don't need them anymore. I heard you measure body weight in stone. That sounds a bit like a prehistoric Your Mama So Fat show, doesn't it? Your mama be weigh 15 stone. Oh. We're so happy to learn that you measure distances in chain, which means you entered the Iron Age already. But like I said, we don't need it anymore. We have a better system, and we can all use it. And in England, it's absolutely working. So especially in education and in science, you have the metric system here. In America, a bit more difficult. They sometimes have more of the no approach.
to the metric system, and sometimes they say, you can't force us to use this system. We have our system, and you have your system, and you can't force us to use your system. Now, the thing is, I don't feel like we are forcing anyone. For me, it feels more like a trade, like a swap. It's quite simple. You use our metric system, and we use your language. All the time, yes. All the time we will. Even in international science competitions, we will use your language. So it's a trade, it's a swap, and I think it's time to put this trade in a strict and binding contract. So the next time we hear an inch or a foot, we put the entire internet in French, okay? We will. We will. And for the French-speaking people who now think, mais l'internet, c'est déjà en français, no? No, it's not. That's just the part we let you play on. There's more. There's actually more. Good. Yeah, so like Quintus said, I'm a physicist. I studied physics. Do we have other physicists here today? Physicists, welcome, welcome, sons and daughters of the light. Is what my professor called at the beginning of every lesson. He did, sons and daughters of light. He was very motivating. Do we have chemists here? Chemists? There they are. Welcome, chemists, and congratulations for trying. Because, no, a chemist is almost a physicist. We're really proud of them. So, good job. Really well done. They are. Do we have engineers? Engineers there? Oh, many engineers. I'll speak slower. So, don't be surprised, it's friendly banter, you know, that's what we do, that's what we do. Engineers and physicists, we're together all the time, we build machines, we use each other's theories, so we have to tell jokes about each other. This has a history, of course. As physicists, we are sometimes annoyed by engineers because they sell out the pure beauty of science to industry for money. Yes. They are the pimps of science, in a way. Which is why. And are you applied engineers or theoretical engineers, or do you have the difference here in England? Bit of both, bit of both. In Belgium, we have two branches. We have applied engineering and we have civil engineering, which is very theoretical, and the difference between the two is quite simple. An applied engineer is a person who will build a bridge. It will stay up. And he or she will not understand why. This is applied engineering. Where civil engineering is a person who will build a bridge. It will collapse. And he or she will understand perfectly why. This is the difference between the two branches of engineering. So, yes. Do we have mathematicians here? Mathematicians? Over there. I have to kneel now. I'm sorry. This is protectors of the realm. Mothers and fathers of dragons. That's what you do in science when you meet a mathematician. You kneel because they are the higher elves of science. They are absolutely. They are so clever and they are so bright and they can solve every problem in the world, except maybe the small problem on how to have a normal social conversation. But they're working on it. They are working on it, and the numbers are looking good. And just a few more matrix rotations and they'll be there. And then we will have extrovert mathematicians. You do know how to recognize them, right? Extrovert mathematicians. It's quite simple. They're the ones who stare at your shoes while they're mumbling. And it's an extrovert mathematician. Yeah. But, well, in physics, we need mathematicians. We need, and in physics, when you have a problem and you cannot solve it, you call the mathematics department. That's what you do. Every now and then you get an answering machine. And it says, we're sorry, but the number you have dialed is imaginary. Please tilt your telephone 90 degrees and try again. That's what it says. Yeah. I was once talking to a mathematician, and she said, Lieven, have you noticed how everyone in science always thinks that he's one step higher than he actually is? How all the technicians think they're engineers. All the engineers think they're physicists. All the physicists think they are God. And God thinks he's a mathematician. So,
That's what they do. This is where they see themselves. Yeah. They're very exact. They're such exact people. In physics, we have the liberty to abbreviate, and we look for orders of magnitude. When you ask a physicist how many hours in a day, he'll say around 25. It's easier in calculations. How many days in a year? Let's say 400. It's just, rounding things off. So how many hours in a year? Well, 25 times 400, 10,000. That's easy. It's easier. We once had a physicist called Enrico Fermi. You might have heard of him, Nobel Prize winner. And when he had to do fast calculations, he only used the numbers 1, 10, 100, 1,000, and so on. And he could work really fast. So how many hours in a day? 10. It's easy. How many days in a year? 1,000. How many hours in a year? 10,000. Same result, much easier. So nice. Yeah. The famous XKCD cartoonist once published a list of the favorite movies of Enrico Fermi, such as 100 Dalmatians was one of them, and 10 Years in Tibet. And of course, the trilogy Rambo 1, Rambo 1, and Rambo 1. So really good. But these mathematicians, they always have to be exact. They can't round off things. They have to be. You might have heard the story of the physicist, the mathematician, and the sociologist traveling to Scotland together. And they arrive in Scotland. They take a walk there, and they come by a hillside, and on this hillside there are 2 black sheep. So the sociologist looks at this and says, well, I've only just arrived in Scotland. I have only seen 2 sheep here, so I can conclude that all the sheep in Scotland are black. Because this is how some sociologists will use statistics. Now, it's a good thing that there's a physicist standing next to him, and she looks at her colleague and says, well, I think you're making a mistake. Maybe it's safer to say there are black sheep in Scotland. That sounds like a safe conclusion. We've seen a few. We're not saying anything about all the sheep. Let's just say there are black sheep in Scotland. Now, there is a mathematician standing next to them, and he looks at his colleagues with a look that might be familiar to some of you. I think it's called mathematical disdain, is the look. So he looks at his colleagues, and then he looks in the distance, looks in his agenda, and looks on his watch and said, on this day, November 3rd of 2013, there were at 3:30 in the afternoon on this hillside in Scotland 2 sheep who were black at least one side. They are very exact people. I have once told this joke, the last thing I can tell you, I've once told this joke on a mathematics conference, which was a bad idea. No, but this is a true story. This is a true story. After the conference, a mathematician comes up to me and she says, Mr. Shire, this joke you were telling about the sheep in Scotland, is it like a mathematician would ever come to conclusions based on visual information? They never would. Good. I think the wait is over. I think the jury is back, so back to the nerves. Thank you very much for listening. See you. Goodbye. Thanks. Cheers. Bye.
That was fabulous. That was, as I said, Lieven Shear, or as he said, Lieven, which I can't quite do. And as he said, I don't think you could be a British comedian with that name, not just because people would keep thinking you were Lieven, but I think the headline writers would have Leave and Let Die. They would just find that too tempting. And since Lieven Shear happens to be an anagram of cheese in liver, this is a good opportunity for me to plug the Science of Cheese event, which is on Saturday night. See, Ian, I wasn't joking, there really is one. This is with wine, lots of cheese to taste, and expert analysis from the king of the science demo, Professor Andreas Seller. Insider insights from Neil's Yard's chief cheese buyer, Bronwyn Percival, plus the added pickle of me hosting. So it is nearly but not quite sold out, so I recommend it. Right, the judges are almost back. Before we get the decision of their triumvirate and the more consensual consensus of our audience vote winner, can we get all our finalists back on stage, please? Can you please welcome back the Uganda Bonanza, that is Irene Chomhanji. Coming on strong from Hong Kong, Nicole Phoebe Tanner. Go-getter from Valletta, Anthea Aegius Anastasi. South African solid gold, Siamo Legoali. Portuguese from Portugal, David Beador. Indian champion, Maya Bonkeel. The tip-top Brit hop of Alex Lathbridge. winner of the Mauritian competition, Roshni Rajkumar, and Aussie's Bees Neural Kokchetin. Rejoice, this is the last moment of unity. Division is upon us. 8 people, well, 9 people, 8 people and 1 poo are about to be divided up into winners and losers. Now, as I mentioned before, we are hugely grateful to our sponsors EDF Energy and, of course, to British Council, without whom FameLab International wouldn't have the international bit. So to reveal our audience vote winner, I'm going to have to hand the envelope to him and present them with their award. It's a great parabola pleasure to welcome the man who for just over a year has been chair of British Council, Christopher Rodriguez. Christopher.
Thank you very much. Have you got Price Waterhouse doing this? Is this like the Oscars?
No. At least, I hope not.
We will see. A moment more waiting. I just want to say thank you. Firstly, on behalf of the British Council, 11,000 colleagues in 115 countries, we're incredibly proud of what you've done and what all of the finalists did to get here tonight. You've been fantastic. The Council's been around since 1934, trying to connect peoples of the world when other things went against us. Firstly, fascism in the 1930s, 2 world wars, communism, now trying to connect the world in quite challenging and difficult times. What we are absolutely convinced is that the youth of the world matter, and regardless of people's attempts in some countries to return into a nationalist instead of global view of the world, we have to make sure that the youth of the world connects. For us, therefore, this is an incredibly important event, not just because I think we've seen some of the great scientists of the future in front of us, and I think we know that after the last 10 years, but also because providing these connections is something that matters to Britain and matters to the youth of the world. So thank you for being the exemplar of what we stand for and what we believe in. Now, before... I've been asked to say, on behalf of us all, some thank yous quickly to people without whom this wouldn't have happened. Quentin Cooper, our host with chutzpah. And our alliterative acrobat. I'm not going to do that with all the names. I've learned from you. We'd love to thank the people who made this possible: Malcolm Love, Frank Burnett, Jonathan Sanderson, Emily Grossman, Carl Byrne, Hugh James, Tamandra Harkness, Nick Harrington, James Percy, Lewis Dartnell, and Matthew Tosh. And I think we should all thank the Cheltenham Science Festival organisers, and I'd like to thank my British Council colleagues. Enough already. This says 2017 audience vote winner, so that's a good start. It may be Tshamo Legoli, South Africa. Congratulations. You are the popular winner. Bravo.
Thank you, Christopher Rodriguez. Congratulations, Siama. We'll give you a trophy afterwards. There is a real one. Don't worry. We just didn't want to have it on stage and have you all cluttered up with various stuff as well. So, thank you. Let's get to the finish. Let's get the triple-headed beastliness that is our judges back on stage. Can you please welcome Tim Slingsby, Ellen Stofan, and Jim Al-Khalili. Look at them, they're exerting their judgely authority by pushing them. You could just stand for a second. No, that's fine. That's fine. Have you reached a decision on which you are more or less all in agreement?
Yes, we have.
Good, okay. And before we reveal the results, any words of comfort, consolation, celebration for our currently United 9.
Yeah, what we thought we'd do is just run through and just say a word or two about each of the finalists. So just starting from number 1. So Irene from Uganda, who talked about malaria, who studied it for her master's, going to be doing it for her PhD.
She probably knew most of this.
Passionate about it, and we love the analogy with superheroes, of course.
So, Nicole, Phoebe, Tanner. So the first thing you have to do as a science communicator is engage the audience, and boy, did you have us engaged, and boy, was I glad that was poop that wasn't. It wasn't poop that was spilled on the stage, but it was terrific. Really, a lot of energy.
And Anthea from Malta, what I really love about FameLab presentations is when they reveal something that I didn't previously know. So you know, this wonderful new car smell that a lot of us are familiar with, I now know is carcinogenic. So I now need to go and ask an awful lot more questions about this subject, which is something that I'm really appreciative of. Thank you.
Number 4, Siamo from South Africa. We love the fact that you're a geologist with a passion for broader science, talked about botany, and we love the demos, and we have our eye on a few of those chocolates in a bit because we're feeling peckish. Thank you very much.
David, you really took a story that all of us know pretty darn well, and you really made me sit on the edge of my seat wondering what you were going to say next. So you took something we knew, and you put a different edge on it that we all loved and really caught our attention. So.
Maya, I thought that your presentation about the lithium-ion batteries was a really good delivery. You had real confidence on stage, and the use of body language to tell your story was really compelling as well, so well done.
Alex, the stage rapper, I think we thought you had wonderful presence on stage, very charismatic. I'd like to hear more rhythms due to various brain signals at some point, maybe in the bar later.
Roshni, you took a subject that is so critical to the fate of your nation, and you offered a solution, not just explaining how bad climate change is, but that there are ways that we can combat it, and that hope for the future is something we all need. So thank you for giving us a little more hope tonight.
And Nurel, I thought that your presentation sounds really calm and considered, and it really let the audience know that you were not only in control of your presentation, but you were in control of your subject as well. It was really well done.
I'm still slightly smirking at the fact we've got people who look like they're all in the competition and somebody who's wandered in from a Halloween party, which is just still kind of constantly tickled by this as well. Okay, so you said something nice about everybody. Now a little bit about how was it tough? Was it easy? I mean, I thought the standard was exceptionally high this year. It was great in the semi-finals. It was great here. So it can't have been that easy.
I have to say that, I mean, I don't know how many FameLabs I've judged over the years, but normally the judges get together and we have a very good idea who we think the winner is right from the start, but we go through discussing the merits of each of them. This one was the first time I felt that, you know, 15 minutes wasn't really enough, but we had to make it enough. But it wasn't clear-cut at all. But it's very, very high standard.
So for those who don't make the cut, you're basically saying this is semi-arbitrary, really.
It's basically
they could have
any
been there.
one of
They
them
just
could have
tossed a
won.
coin.
In the end, that's what we had to do.
Okay, fine. Okay, I think we can't really drag this out any longer. We need 2 joint runners-up now. As we pointed out before, you can't really do the 2 names at the same time, so you'll have to do them sequentially, but you are equal, whoever you may be.
Okay, so the first runner-up is...
Of 2 equal runners-up.
The first of the 2 equal runners-up is Nicole Phoebe Tanner from Hong Kong.
Whoa! She came on as number 2, she dressed as number 2, and she stayed number 2. Right, fine, okay.
And the second equally equal runner-up is Nura from Australia.
And again, there are actual trophies, which you will see in the fullness of time as well. Okay, thank you for that. Now, before we blurt out the winner, and not at all to drag out the big reveal, we're going to get up someone to present them with their prize. And as well as an exquisitely engraved trophy, they're going to get this fab GoPro rugged camera kit, as kindly donated by the FameLab UK sponsors, EDF Energy. This will allow whoever it is to film their own science communication activities, even in extreme conditions of, say, excrement. Now, and to present the prize, please welcome to the Parabola stage the head of communications at the aforementioned EDF Energy, Bob Fenton.
Beautifully wrapped.
Right, now Bob, anything to say before we get to the big reveal? You can have a non-speaking role or a speaking role. The choice is yours.
I'll just be very brief. I do communications for a living, and I come here to find out how to do it properly. It's awesome. But I'm also really pleased to see the winner of our junior FameLab Academy sitting down there.
Oh, hello.
Who was with us in Cheltenham.
Come on, stand up.
For those that aren't familiar with it, it's the same competition, but we run it with secondary schools. You've got some really hard competition coming through, guys. Just watch these fellas.
They'll be out of here by then, that's fine.
They'll be old.
Was that it?
Yeah, that's stuff.
Oh, that was great. That was short and sweet. Can we thank Bob? Right, Bob is in position. The FameLabbers are primed. The judges are poised. Who is our 2017 FameLab International Champion?
That, you know, picking a winner was really hard. And I will say on a personal level, I just flew over from the States yesterday. I have jet lag, and I thought, wow, it's going to be tough to make it through tonight. But each one of you kept me so engaged that I could have given you more time and let you talk more. It was really fascinating, so thank all of you so much. You know, a good communicator needs to know their story, but they also need to know the backstory. They need to be poised, they need to be confident, they need to tell a story. And Siamo, you did all of that. Congratulations.
No, back off. Stay center stage, boss. That microphone. Have you got that microphone? Take this. Well done.
Thank you.
This is great. I have never seen, I did the masterclass in South Africa. I have never seen Siamo lost for words. This is a treat in itself. It won't last long though, will it? You're going to recover.
Yes. I should.
Anything to say? Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. I can't talk. Thank you very much for this opportunity. FameLab 2017 has been a great opportunity. I met amazing scientists. All of you are wonderful. I made new friends, and we got to share knowledge from our different countries. Thank you very much to the British Council for this amazing opportunity. Thank you very much for the audience for voting for me. And I'm really, really grateful for this opportunity. I'm really, really grateful. It does not go unnoticed, and it will change the lives of people, not just myself, but back where I'm from in South Africa. Thank you.
That is it. Once you've got the winner, there is nowhere to go after that but to the pub. So thank you, congratulations. Thank you to everybody. Thank you for being a really great, lively, inspirational audience as well. I know we've already had a few thanks from Christopher, but I'd really like to thank the many FameLab assistants backstage, particularly organisers, particularly the FameLab manager at Cheltenham Science Festival, Helen Kirkman. A round of applause for her. And British Council's own famed Labrador, Adrian Fenton. We could not have done it without you. An audience? Well, we could have done it without you, but it would have been rather pointless. So thank you to you as well. This has been FameLab International 2017. I have been Quentin Cooper. They have all been FameLabulous. So one more time for our 9 finalists and our new 2017 International FameLab Grand Champion, Siamo Legoale. And the Conservatives won. Right, okay, thank you very much.